All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we've got a special guest. That's my boy JJ over there on the other side. JJ, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
So glad you could be here, man. I know you enjoy doing these things. So I know your tendency is to like to take a sheep shot at Uncle Chris, since he can't be here. So do you have any jokes, cracks, anything you want to extend towards him today?
We'll wait for that.
Oh, okay. All right. Just so you know, he calls you out because you won't do it to his face. So,
On
you know,
what? Social media?
anything. You don't have social media, so that's why you can't do that. All right, well, look, we're gonna take a few minutes. We got an exciting day today. We got some family coming in town, so we're kind of excited about that. But we want to take a minute to discuss some sports because that's one of our favorite things to do. So, Bud, let's just go ahead and do the thing that we like to do the most. Let's talk a little NFL, okay? So,
Alright.
obviously, the big news of this week was Carson Wentz getting traded from the
Ooh,
Eagles to the Colts. Okay, so let's start off. Let's talk about what the trade actually had in it. So Carson gets sent from Philly to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is sending back a 2021 third round pick, a 2022 second round pick that is a conditional pick. So that means if he plays 75% of the snaps, or if he plays 70% and they get into the postseason, then that second round pick next year turns into a first. Okay. I know that's probably a lot of information, but consider the fact that a 32-year-old quarterback traded from Detroit in Matthew Stafford got two first round picks and Jared Goff, and I think a third round pick maybe. Last year, uh, so quarterback is the most important position, right? But during the
yeah.
season, Jalen Ramsey, or before the season, Jalen Ramsey got two first round picks. That's what he was worth as a cornerback. Jamal Adams, safety, who's really a glorified linebacker probably because he can't play in space now. He got two first round picks, but yet Carson Wentz, a former first round pick, like second overall pick, or might have been first. I can't even remember now.
He was
I think it
second
was
because,
second. Yeah, Golf went first, right?
yeah.
So second overall pick goes for a third and conditional second round pick. How sad is that? How fast did he fall off to where the league has just that's what they view him as a discard at this point? What are your thoughts on this trade?
I'm still surprised he didn't go for more for how
Right.
young he is and how good he was before this last year.
Well, I don't get it, but I mean it is what it is. So that means that I guess Philadelphia is either going to completely rely on Jalen Ramsey going for not Jalen Ramsey. What am I talking about? J- Jalen
Hurts.
Hurts going forward. He showed a little bit at the end of the year. I don't know if
He
he's
looked pretty good.
he was. I mean, he was okay. Let's just be honest. We're viewing him from a fantasy perspective. Okay, when I snatched him up as a fantasy quarterback. I snatched him up thinking, oh man, this is going to be great. We need this guy. We need him to really work for us. Um, so I snatched him up, and he got me through part of the playoffs. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was very happy with that. Okay, but if we actually look at how he did. All right, so let's view his what a few games of his passing. Okay, so here we have the last game he played, January 3rd against the Washington Redskins. He's 7 for 20 for 72 yards and an interception.
Well, it's the Redskins. That's a
It's a
great
Oh, I'm
defense.
sorry. I didn't know we were only, putting him up against bad defenses. I thought we were trying to grade him against actual NFL defenses. Cool, 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 cool. Okay. All right. So the game before that at Dallas Cowboys, he's 21 for 39, 342 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions.
That's a terrible defense, so you should be doing that.
Okay. The game before that against the Cardinals, 24 for 44, 338 yards, three touchdowns, zero interceptions. But he also got
Also, a
sacked six times.
terrible
Good God.
defense.
Yeah,
Really?
the
You got
Cardinal
sacked?
six times.
Well,
Yeah. So
wow.
if you look at his stats from last year, his passing stats, I mean, when it came to I mean, that's a divisional. foe when you're talking about the Washington, football team here. You got to be able to do good against them. I know they had, Chase Claypool and some others and stuff. Not Chase Claypool. What am I talking about? Chase
Chase
Young, man.
Young.
I might need to take up coffee. I'm struggling this morning. But I don't know. I don't know if he showed enough to justify dropping Wentz for so little. But I guess that was um, a locker room thing at that point. I don't know. So all right, here's the question then. In your opinion, we're talking about the trade between Philly and Indianapolis. Grade the trades. So from Indianapolis side, they're only giving up a third and possibly either a second or a first next year. How would you grade that trade?
I'd give that a B.
Okay, you're giving it
I
a B.
mean, you're giving up a potential first round pick for a wash up.
Is he washed up? He's only like 25 years old.
I don't know, but he's got like a humongous contract to go with that.
Okay, so from the Indianapolis side, we're saying they gave up a third and possibly either second or first next year. You think it's decent? You think it's a
It's all
B?
right.
It's
He
average.
could come back.
He could come back. That's right. From the Philly side, though, they had to give up. I mean, they're giving up a guy who's. I won't say they're giving up anything. They're getting rid of a guy who's apparently not good enough for their locker room now. That's the best way to characterize that. They're not happy with how he is in their locker room. So they said we're just going to get rid of him. The problem is they have to eat about $33 million of dead money in their cap. So that if the cap, I think they said the cap is going to be no lower than $185 million this year. Well, man, how much is that? Like $33 million out of 185. I mean, that's like 5% of their cap or something.
52. 152.
Yeah. I'm not asking you to do math. I know how you love math. But I'm just saying, like, that's a good chunk. That's a good chunk, man. Like, when you
I'd probably give
consider,
that a B as well.
so you're still saying that's a B.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting rid of a guy who might go full Deshaun Watson, just sit out and complain, but
Full Deshaun Watson has sit out and complain. Have you heard him complaining? Have you heard him on social media screaming and saying, "I
I
hate"?
don't have social media.
I know you don't have social media, so where are you getting that term?
Well, not
Full.
really complain. It's just like sit out a year. I mean, I guess Carson Wentz was okay, but he didn't look great, and then he started saying he wanted out.
Oh, okay. So this is the level that we justify whining and complaining now. Okay, this is interesting considering in all your Madden games,
John Watson's case is special.
you and your brother basically force yourself out of town every time you develop a player. Never understood that. You and James cracked me up. You'll win a Super Bowl in Madden, and then automatically I have to go to a new team. I can't stay on this team. Makes no sense. You just won a Super Bowl. Why would
Actually, that's just James. I stayed. I left once they wouldn't give me any weapons.
I got you. All right. Well, let's keep on this quarterback carousel right now. Okay. So we see that trade. We get what I'm kind of excited for Indianapolis. I think it's going to be a good move for them. He goes back to his former offensive coordinator or whatever with Frank Reich, and maybe Frank can work his magic and develop something with Carson. He knows what Carson does well. He knows how to get the best out of Carson. So I think the Colts probably won this trade, especially for as little as they gave up.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chris Ballard for making an unbelievable trade, moving your team a step forward because they've already got a great offensive line. They got a few decent receivers. They got to see if they can bring back T.Y. Hilton and such, but the owners already said we're going to bring him back. They're going to develop some stuff. Unbelievable defense. They were probably a quarterback away from really being able to compete in the playoffs. Now, Rivers was good for them last year, but we all saw that Rivers was declining. Okay, so it was understandable. He played well, but he was a little bit limited as to what he could do. So now we're getting to a guy that was in the same draft class with Rivers. We're talking about Ben Roethlisberger. Okay,
Yeah.
Ben has a huge cap hit this year for the team. His cap hit this year is like $41 million. That's huge for a team that's already in cap hell. They're already over the cap, struggling. They can't, and they got to bring back. They got to try to figure out a way to bring back Bud Dupree and others. So they're struggling. Big Ben has already said, I want to come back if they want me. Well, then the GM comes out and says, we'd kind of love to have Ben back, but we got to look at some things, as in the money's got to work. I might not even be phrasing that right, where if they said we'd love to have him back, I think they said basically something we're going to have to look at. I should probably quote it correctly. If you read the tea leaves here, if you read what they're saying, it sounds like they may not want Roethlisberger back.
Sounds like they're letting him go.
Well, they can't let him go. They can't let him go because of the money. What I believe that they want Roethlisberger to just retire. They want to start over. They want to, pick up. They want to work something out at that position, and I think they want him to retire because he looked pretty bad at the end of last season.
I think it's time.
Maybe. The rest of the guys of that class are gone. Rivers is now retired. Eli Manning's been retired. That's that same draft class. They've been at it for a while. The only guy doing it longer than them right now was, basically Breeze and Brady. So I don't know, man. Do you think it's time for Big Ben to hang it up?
I think it is. If you want that team to succeed, I think he has to retire. He's not the same. And they can probably find another quarterback in the draft and draft another all-star receiver and keep that offense going.
Well, they got, they can't. So he threw for 3,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. It wasn't awful, but he looked awful at the end, especially that playoff game. That the last thing you do is, what have you done for me lately, league? Okay. And their last game, he throws, 68 times against the Browns, but they were down early, so they had to throw. They had no running game. It was awful. 501 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He was having to throw a lot this year. You can tell by their stats. He was having to throw like crazy because they'd get behind. They had no running game. So 33 to 10, it's not a bad ratio, but it's definitely not what you're used to from Big Ben. 3,300 yards or whatever it was. That's nothing like what you're used to seeing him throw.
But most of those touchdowns came off all the times they lost. He wasn't really thrown at those first 12 games. It's just he looked terrible for the last of them, and they lost every single game afterwards.
Well, they looked pretty rough hitting. They started out strong, winning the first like 11 games in a row, and then they just kind of fell apart. But it wasn't just him. They lost Bud Dupree. The team is aging. Marquise Pouncey's now retired. So they're having to rebuild their whole offensive line. They don't know if they're going to bring back JuJu Smith-Schuster. So, all right, before I know we're going to, we're still on the quarterback carousel talking about this, but in your opinion, should they bring JuJu back?
That's tough.
Is it? He was
I
supposed
don't know
to be
if they
there.
have to.
You think they have to?
It depends on who they get out the draft. They can get another great receiver. And I don't think they have to because they already got Claypool. He looks great.
Yeah, Chase Claypool looks really good. I think he was like their 3rd round pick, so they got him at a pretty good deal as far as financially.
But I also think if they bring Big Ben back, because he doesn't look as good as he used to be, so they're going to need someone to really, really good to get the balls.
The problem is they don't have the money. They're over the cap as it is right now, so they can't bring back everybody. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Like JuJu had the chance to really step up. I thought he was gonna step up last year, the year before. I know he had a season of injuries. It kind of limited a lot of what he could do. But he looked absolutely incredible in 2018.
Yes.
1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns. Okay, he looked fantastic that year, and that's when everybody thought he was going to blow up. He was going to be amazing. Well, that's because he had Antonio Brown on the other side. Okay, 2019, he doesn't play all 16 games. He only plays 12 games. He has 550 yards and 3 touchdowns. He couldn't handle being the number one receiver, and he couldn't stay healthy. Last year, he played 16 games, had 800 yards and nine touchdowns. So he did step up a little bit, but is that the guy that you're paying max money for? 800 yards and 9 touchdowns? Can you blame that on Ben? Can you blame that on JuJu dancing on the field before games? A guy who seems to care more about his social media than anything. I mean, that's just me. I know. All right, so
I
I
think you
know
let him go.
I know it's probably not the best example, but Bill Belichick. We're huge Patriot fans, you and I. One of the Belichick has, notoriously and routinely failed at drafting players. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and admit that. But he has a tendency to ask the question, try to figure out how much does this guy love football? Because if you're going to play for the Patriots, you have to love football. You have to love the grind of it, being willing to go in there and work day in and day out of that. Football has to be your number one thing. Maybe
Gotta
aside
be
from your family,
life.
football's got to be your favorite thing in the world. And you've got a guy like JuJu who he seems to care more about his social media following. His dog has got more social media followers than I'll ever have. Okay, let's just be honest about that. His dog is far more famous than anybody I'll ever personally know. Um, so that's kind of the situation where I don't know, man. I don't know if JuJu's got it. You know what I mean? If he seems like he cares far more about what he seems like on social media than what he does on the field. So me personally, I would not bring JuJu back. I would
No.
go. I would personally let him go. You got Chase Claypool. They have a great track record of drafting wide receivers late, developing them. You still got James Washington. I know he's not great, but he's there. You got some other guys that you can get, off the bargain bin. I wouldn't max out for JuJu. I'm just not that guy. Now, I would love to see JuJu go somewhere and have a great quarterback and blow it up. I would not be opposed to that. I'm not a hater, but if I'm the Steelers, knowing that I've got to put money into Bud Dupree to get him back on our defense if we think he's going to be healthy, coming off that knee injury, and we've got to figure out how to get out of this cap hell that we're in. And Roethlisberger counts for way too much money, especially at his age. I don't think you can bring back JuJu, but that's just me. All right, so there, all over Twitter last night there was conversation. I've not heard what the decision has been made, but it was all these negative comments about whether or not Bree should come back. Overarching example last night was that they were basically saying that Drew Brees' arm is shot and that he needs to retire. I personally think he is going to retire, but
Yeah.
out of curiosity, do you think he should retire or come back and try to go out on top?
Mm. Well, he didn't look too great last year, but he didn't have Michael Thomas for most of it. So
He
I
did at
think you
the end.
give
He looked awful at the end.
True, but when he played against Tampa, his receivers couldn't hold on to the ball once they hit an interception.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie that especially Jared Cook, a few plays. They let him down. That's for sure.
I think they give him 1 year, one more year,
You think one more year?
one more year. If he doesn't look the same, I think he retires.
I think he's done now. He's
I
already
think
made a
he
change
will
to his
retire.
he made a change to his contract where he restructured his contract. He was due, I can't even remember how much money, 24 million or something like that, and he restructured part of his contract to where basically he's going to make a more team friendly deal, which makes it sound like he's definitely retiring, that he's
Yeah.
done, and what he's doing is just trying to help the team out so they can, because they're also in cap hell where they went all in. They went all in to see if they could try to win it for Drew right before he retired, and now they're just they're in a bad place. So that's what's up. Okay, so jumping around here, I want to jump over. So we haven't had a chance to discuss it, but I'm gonna tell you honestly, I'm excited about the idea that EA Sports is supposedly going to bring back college football, the college football video game. I can't
Woo.
tell you how excited I am. I think the last one that I had was the last one they made. What was it?
13?
2014. I think it was 2014. It had the guy from I can't even remember that dude's name from Michigan. Had him on the cover, but I'm just excited that it's going to be back, man. I'm ready. I've been waiting on this. I think it's ridiculous how hard the NCAA, how hard they have fought against this. They make billions of dollars every year, but
What's it
yet they
gonna
can't
hurt?
figure out how to pay some sort of stipend, some sort of royalty to these players to use their name and likeness. Now, what I did see is that it looks like EA is going to be bringing it back, but they're not going to be bringing it back fully. So, like, supposedly you're not going to be playing with the exact players in Alabama. It's going to be some sort of facsimile to where they don't have to pay the players yet. I really
Mm,
hope they can work this stuff out. I know that they're changing the laws and they're working on this.
just pay the players already.
Uh,
Just pay them.
well,
They've been
um,
asking for this for years, not even in video games.
so
They've been
what's your
just
opinion? Do you see you don't believe that a guy getting a free ride to go 4 years to school is enough of a payment?
I mean, in some cases, I think it is.
You can't say some
I
cases
mean,
in
I
this
guess,
situation. You got to
yeah.
go. It's got to be the same across the board.
I think, yeah, I think a full ride is great for, I mean, a lot of people don't get that and go into debt for school.
Yeah, it sucks. Believe me. That's why we're not letting you do that. Learn the words scholarship or community college. That's what I'm telling you.
And
All
they're
right.
getting
No, but
scholarships.
huh?
And they're getting these scholarships, but they will keep asking. I
Well,
feel like eventually they're gonna have to change the rules for the NFL to get more players instead of staying 3 years in college. I think eventually they're gonna have to do it like the NBA, like a 1 year and then go to
well,
college
that
football.
has nothing to do with NCAA. That rule is from the NFL. The NFL doesn't want guys until they've been removed from school 3 years because physically uh, you need to be bigger and stronger in order to play in the NFL. The NBA is taking kids at points and taking them and molding them and stuff like that. The game is very taxing physically to play basketball, but it's much different playing football when you're hitting somebody full speed, when you're running and tackling somebody full speed. You need to be a little bit more physically mature. So that's why they go that route. Plus, honestly, the NFL likes the idea of watching guys play 3 years at a minimum rather than the NBA's letting them just do 1 year. Because if 3 years, you can figure out what they're good at, what they're not good at. That's exactly what happens in the NBA.
True.
If a guy stays in school 2 to more years, the NBA starts figuring out, oh, well, he actually can't do this. Oh, he can't do that. So maybe we don't want him. So that's exactly what the NFL is doing. They're using college football as a farm system to where they get these guys in there, they get them trained, but maybe they don't get them trained in the right system necessarily. The old Carolina system was awful with Larry Fedora as far as their quarterbacks. Look at Trubinsky.
Ugh.
He played 13 games, got drafted second overall, and the Bears have regretted it ever since. So it doesn't always work, but it does help to have that, lengthy time in college where they can figure out what they're good at, what they're not good at. But that's the thing. I do still believe that the scholarships should count for something. If you're getting a scholarship to go play at Duke University, college basketball, that's a huge scholarship because that's not a cheap school. That's like at
Yeah.
minimum of $30,000 a year. I don't even know what it is. Probably $40,000 a year school. Okay, so if you're getting $40,000 a year, okay, granted, I understand that $40,000 a year is not great when you consider how much athletics does pay in general. But I believe that the players should get the name and likeness. I think that stuff should pass to where if I don't know, let's just say when Tyler Hansbrough played for Carolina basketball, I believe that they should have had the name and likeness thing happening all along there. So if Tyler Hansbrough could go cash in on the fact that he's famous and some car dealership just wants him to come out there and sign autographs for a few hours and he can get paid for that, I think he should. Now,
Yes.
are people going to take advantage of that and blow it up and really screw that up? Absolutely. There are going to be
Yeah.
crooks at everything. There are going to be people that steal. There are going to be people that pay under the table. This stuff's always going to happen. You're always going to have the Reggie Bushes of the world that are going to take the money because they need it financially, or you're going to have the Chris Webbers of the world who just want it. Okay. That stuff's always going to happen, but you still have to do something for everybody to make it better than what it is. Because even
Yeah.
Chris Webber, when he talked about how much it bothered him, and this is the 90s, we're talking early 90s, when he walked by a store and he saw his jersey hanging in the store for sale, in the school and the NCAA and all those Nike and whoever was making that were making every bit of money off his shirt, what he made popular, but he wasn't getting a dime. I think that's wrong.
I
Now,
think Weber should be paid.
well, he's getting paid now because he's an announcer on television after retiring from the NBA. But what I'm stating is that, so right now they have jersey sales. The NFL players get a cut of their jersey sales. Now, it may not be much money, when you consider they might sell 1 million jerseys of Tom Brady. Tom might get a check for, I don't know, $1,000. I got no idea what his cut is, but he does get something. They also get a check from Madden. Because they're in Madden, they all get a check from Madden. It may not be killer money, but if you're in the game, you get a check. So I think that these things should happen. Somebody's just got to bite the bullet and work it out. NCAA is making killer money. In March Madness,
It's
college
not going to hurt
football,
them.
there are a few things. The only things more popular in the United States than March Madness and college football is the NFL. It's the NFL. There's nothing more
Yeah.
popular. You can't. There's no one that I talk to that likes the NBA more than they like college basketball, except for maybe Isaac. That's it. I mean, I'm being serious. There's no one. Everyone likes college more because the players and it's a different environment. Now, I understand that if they start getting paid, it might change everything about that environment, but something's got to happen eventually, because what we're starting to see, especially in college basketball, we saw I think it was 3 or 4 guys out of the top 10 high school players coming out. They
Going
didn't go
to
to college. They went to the G League. Jonathan Kumunga and others, they went, Josh Green, they all went straight to the G League. So that means they're not having to do school. They're not having to do, all they're doing is working on their bodies, working on their games, and they're getting paid. Are they getting paid a lot? No. One guy I think is getting like $500,000 or something like that. It's not a lot of money, but they're getting
It's more
paid.
than you're making at college.
Well, that's true. Now they don't have a degree to fall back on. So if they, their bodies get injured, they're crap out of luck. But that's just the situation that they're in. Okay, so I think we both believe they should get paid. Chris is on the far opposite side. He's still old school and he thinks they shouldn't get paid. So we'll bust his chops about that. We'll keep calling him old man. He's only like,
I
he's
can
less
see
than
it
3
from
years.
both sides.
He's less than 3 years older than me, but we're not talking about it. But hey, all right. So just real quick, college basketball.
Right.
Did you see the guy from Duke opted out? Jalen Johnson opted out. So their potential lottery player from the Duke Blue Devils realized, hey, my team sucks. I'm sick of this. I don't like Coach K. Well, that's the rumors that things were not great between Jalen Johnson's people and Coach K and his people. So he quit. I know they're using the term opting out. He opted out because his foot, he's preparing for the draft. Let's just be honest. There's not much season left. He quit because the team sucks and he wasn't getting minutes. The last game they played against NC State, I think he got 11 minutes and then he quit. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I say he quits, but as a Carolina fan, I'm being completely openly, honestly about how biased I am. As a Carolina fan, I hope this shows all these, high school players, don't go play for Coach K. Don't go play. Don't go play for him. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm completely
South
biased.
Carolina.
I'm also biased, and I understand that Roy Williams' system at Carolina is somewhat old school and it struggles at
Yeah.
points. I get it. I'm not saying Carolina's 1,000 times better. I mean, I think they're at least 100 times better, but
I'm just saying, we got more championships.
we do. We according to the NCAA, we have one more championship, but Carolina fans know we have 2. Okay, but I'm not saying Coach K is the greatest college basketball coach of all time. You can come at me with the John Wooden stuff. You can come at me with that all you want to. I still believe Coach K is better than John Wooden because of the era he plays in and everything. John Wooden had no competition in his era. He got everybody that he wanted in his era. he got Bill Walton to stay for like 4 years. Okay.
Ooh.
You can come at me with all you want to that John Wooden was better. John Wooden is a Hall of Fame, unbelievably good college basketball coach, but I believe Coach K is the best. Do I like that? Absolutely not, because I'm a Carolina fan and I can't stand Duke. Hate him with a passion. So I'm upset about it, but this seeing, all right, Duke and Kentucky have been the best college basketball recruiting schools for years now, for years. And what we're seeing now is we've had, I think, a player for each team that's basically been considered as quitting on their team almost. I can't think of the dude's name from Kentucky. I'll have to look it up and bring it back next time. But he's been injured. He's their best player. He's been injured and he hasn't come back. And Coach Cal just a couple weeks ago basically called him out to the media and said that their medical team couldn't find anything wrong with the kid, but the kid wasn't playing because he was supposedly hurt, but the medical team couldn't find a problem. So basically Coach Cal was calling him out, saying that this kid is soft, this kid, whatever. That stuff has eventually got to start catching up to these guys in the recruiting, that it's not working out. You got players quitting, you got players that are unhappy, you got players that are just wanting to get out of there. Now, I understand that Chris would argue that there's a change in the temperature of the room as far as the players, that they're not going to be what they were, and these coaches have got to adjust. And Chris may not be in favor of it, but I can see the writing on the wall that things are definitely going to have to change, because we saw that last year with Cole Anthony at Carolina. He didn't quit. God bless him. He played through injury. He stuck it out and he did a fantastic job. But then when push came to shove, he did not say glowing things about Roy Williams in Carolina. He just didn't. So I think that some things have got to change as far as that stuff goes in recruiting. But I'm a Carolina fan, so we'll go ahead and say I'm biased, and I hope that we beat Louisville today. That's just me.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Last question. We're going to get out of here, but I just got to ask you, man, right now, NBA MVP, who you got?
That's tough.
Is it? Because the narrative right now is you have to give it to LeBron because he's so amazing. You have to give it to LaFlop and let him get his
Donovan Mitchell.
Huh?
Donovan Mitchell.
You think that? Well, hey,
the Jazz are on fire right now.
I could see it. The
They
Jazz are 2 games
off.
up. They're 2 games up on the Lakers, and they are leading the NBA. The Jazz have a record of 24-6. The Lakers are right behind them at 22-8. The Clippers at 22-9, and then in the East, the closest team is the 76ers at 20-10.
But I mean, I guess you can give it to LeBron based off the way I've seen him play. All he has to do is a little Harden flop. He goes to the free throw line.
Ooh. I saw that the other day when they were it's been almost a week ago now, but when they were playing the Grizzlies, man,
that was horrible.
Threw himself to the floor and acted like gosh, I can't think of that dude's name out of Oregon, acted like he hit him and he never even touched him. And LeBron flopped so hard. It was so bad. I get so sick and tired of seeing this Duke flop now that all these guys are doing. It drives me nuts. It's not real basketball anymore.
He didn't even go to college and he knows how to Duke flop.
Well, it's because Coach K coached him at all the Olympics. But I don't know, man. This is the thing that everybody, like a buddy of mine, Justin, we argued this back and forth. Who's the greatest player, Michael Jordan or LeBron? And I'm still slightly in the corner of Michael, but I will admit that LeBron is closing that gap. He's played more seasons, but he's closing that gap in an extent because he's doing so much in every stat category. But I don't know, man. Mike was doing it in an era where you just had to be tougher. Now, I understand LeBron's massive. I understand
Michael had it tougher.
I know, but LeBron's like 6'9", 280 if he wanted to be and still play amazingly. So he's physically capable of doing whatever he wants. But I just believe that in the Jordan era, with the way that fouls were, the physicality of it, you had to be mentally tougher. And there are just few people.
I don't think LeBron can handle it.
I think he could, but could he rise to Jordan's level? I don't know.
Oh, definitely not.
I don't know. I saw a stat the other day that blew my mind. Huh? Bill Laimbeer? Oh,
I,
I know. Yeah.
I don't think he could play with him.
Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, those guys. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Um, I saw a stat the other day where like Mike in like in 10 years in Chicago or something like that, it said he had, obviously it might have been 10 years, but I think it was 10 years in Chicago or more. It was definitely more. He had like 6 championships, and they were asking how many all-star players did he have on his team, and it supposedly it was like 2. It was like Pippen and Rodman or something like that, or
And that's it.
that was it. But they showed the same stat for LeBron, and it was like 16 seasons, and it was like how many all-star players did he have to play with him? It was like over 15. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, okay, all right.
He
Well,
can't do it alone. He's not clutch.
no
Just
one
look how he
can.
played against San Antonio.
Let's just be honest. No one can do it alone. Okay, it's a 5-on-5 sport.
It's impossible to do it alone, but LeBron needs extra help compared to Michael.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I can see the gap is closing, but
the only reason he has 4 rings because Ray Allen hit the shot and Kyrie hit the shot.
That's a good point. So you're
he didn't show up
pointing out that he was saved by 2 players. All right. Well, you can make an argument that there's Kerr hit a big shot, that John Paxson hit a big shot for Michael Jordan. I mean, you can make those arguments.
Also hit that big shot against the Jazz.
Oh, Byron Russell, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The flu game, all those things. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know the gap is closing. We'll just put it that way. I know the gap's closing, so they gotta figure some stuff out. So if LeBron keeps winning, man, he's facing that ghost of Michael Jordan. But if LeBron keeps winning, it's going to be. Obviously, if he ties Michael with championships, if he ties Michael with championships, there's no question that he's the better player, just because if he's done more longer. But I know the people will make the argument that Mike was 6-0. And I know it'll happen, and that's okay. I'm here for those arguments for the rest of time, and I love it. That's the best part about sports debate, is that we get to just argue whatever we want. So on that note, thank you guys for spending all this time with us. I have fun. I love it when JJ's here because he gets so excited about this. All right, JJ, tell the people bye.
Goodbye, people.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.